Hello team, today's challenge is issue triage 2, where we're given a title and an array of current labels, and we need to update the labels based on the title or, in one case, the length of the labels, right? So if it's an empty array, if there are no labels attached, we need to add the initial labels, whatever they might be, okay? There are really three critical conditions. I say critical, three core conditions to this, right? The first is obviously that length of 0, right, for the labels. The second one is needs triage. You'll see that in two places right here. Needs triage, good first issue. Needs triage, help wanted, right? And then you'll see discussing on the roadmap or discussing help wanted. So those are our three core conditions. And then from there, we also have security, which can appear anywhere. So regardless of all of this, no matter what happens inside of here, if we have security, we need to add that critical label, okay? So jumping right into this, I'm going to start out by creating a copy of labels. I've said this before, I'll say it again. If we work on labels directly, then we are creating side effects for anything that is outside of this function because we're changing labels directly, right? Bad news, I don't like that. So we're going to go label set just like this and create a copy. Very shallow copy, but it gets the job done, okay? With that, we can take this and paste it in here just like that and do our first conditional, which is a switch statement, okay? You could use an if here. There's only two. There's 0 and everything else, the default. So you could use an if you want, but I'm going to use a switch because I think it reads nice, right? Options and decisions. So right here we have that label set.length. We're going to send that through as case of 0. We're going to do some stuff in here, which means that at some point we are going to break. And then we're going to drop down and go into our default, which is everything else, okay? Or almost everything else. You'll see that in a bit when we do the security. But case 0, okay? Case 0 is two conditionals. So we have this regular expression that is going to test against title. And the regular expression is error or bug, right? That's what they were looking for. So if title has error or bug, then we want to do stuff. What do we want to do? Well, we want to push into label set. What are we pushing? We're pushing bug as a first example. It should be in quotes, bug, and needs triage, right? Needs triage, just like this, okay? With that, and I'm always, I kind of forget this a lot, where push will accept any number of arguments and add it in. So if you thought, oh, I need to use concatenate or something like that in here, push will get it done, right? We can absolutely do that, which means that this saves us from having to do multiple pushes or stuff like that. Makes it very efficient, okay? But error and bug, we also need this one, which is feature and add. So feature or add. If title includes feature or add, then our label set is enhancement, just like that, and discussing, okay? And those are our two master keywords, I guess, right? Depending on how you look at it. Needs triage and discussing. That's it for case 0. So if the length is 0, we test the title to see what kind of issue we might have, at which point we add our flags and send it out the door, okay? From there, we go down. Again, we have another if statement, but this is going to be an if-else because it can only be one or the other in this case. It can only be needs triage or discussing, not both, because that's how they asked for it over here somewhere. Otherwise, right? So a little bit of conditional stuff, but if that label set includes, right? Because it's an array, we can just go includes directly on it. If it includes needs triage, just like this, then we do stuff. What do we do? Well, we need to get the index, right? So the index is label set dot index of needs triage. So a little bit of duplication in strings. If we were using TypeScript, maybe we could use an enum or a different system, right? There are a few just to simplify some of this, right? Or take these hard-coded strings out of here, right? But for now, this gets the job done, which means that we can drop in and get our new label, okay? Our new label is another test. So we have that I.test. What are we testing? Well, it's always title. And this one is simple. I think simple or easy. That's what they're going for today, okay? If that's true, then our label is good first issue, right? Otherwise, we're returning needs help, okay? Sorry, help wanted. Help wanted. Help wanted. There it is, okay? At which point we do a slice, okay? So right here, sorry, not a slice, a splice. At which point we go index, we're getting rid of one and replacing it with new label, okay? This we do again. So I'm going to copy it down, but instead of just doing straight ifs, we're going to do else, okay? Else that label set, if this is discussing, then we're going to do stuff, right? What are we going to do? Well, this is planned, if I remember correctly, and this is next, planned and next, yes. At which point we return this one with on the road map, okay? New label is acting funny. What's going on? New, oh, capitals. Capitals, here we go. Let's just do it. It's going to replace one that I didn't really need to. Come on, there it is. That was weird. I thought I had done that, but there it is, right? So again, if we already have discussing in the label set, then we get that index. We find out if it is planned or next inside of the title, and we set our flag based on that, our label based on that. So all of that should bring it to a close. In fact, I'm only missing at this point the criticals, right? The critical, and down here it has critical. So we need to take care of that. That happens outside of the conditional. So right here, if, right? Again, we're dropping into test, title. What are we testing? Well, it's going to be security. Again, I don't know if it's true, but I've been told, I need to run some tests, but I've been told that security, a regular expression with case insensitivity is faster than title.toLowerCase.includes. So if you prefer that way, absolutely do it. I'm going to stick with this. Again, I think it reads quite nicely, right? But maybe you don't, right? Then that's okay. Label set.push right here. If security exists, then we need to add critical, just like this, at which point it's done, right? We got there. It is quite long, right? But we have a case for if the labels is empty, then we go through here and we try to do stuff. If the labels are not empty, then we test against those labels. So if it includes needs triage or it includes discussing, then we do some stuff. A little bit of duplicate code. We could clean that up if we wanted to. It's not going to make this a lot shorter. So what I would prefer to do is try something a little bit different. We're still going to use a lot of this code, but I think we can do it with some design patterns, right? From the book called Design Patterns by a group of authors called the Gang of Four, right? And they came up with a bunch of different patterns for code that allow us to extract and keep some of this code smaller, right? Abstract it away is the word I'm looking for there. So we can absolutely do that. I'm going to start up here. A lot of their design patterns will use classes. We could use closures here, but I'm going to stick with class just because it's more clear in my mind what's going on. But the first one here is, what do I call it? Untriage state, okay? So what we're doing is we are setting up some classes that we can arbitrarily use, okay? Just like this. we're going to send in, we're not going to send in, we're going to set up a method called process. And that process is going to exist on all three of the classes that we make. That way, whichever class we decide to use, we're always guaranteed to have that process method, which is exactly what we want, right? Again, could these be a closure, right? You have a function that returns a function? Absolutely, right? It's completely up to you how you want to do this. I'm using classes. You pick your own, okay? Inside of here, we have that process. That's going to be, what are we doing? It is title and labels, right? Labels, just like this. Now, if we're in untriaged, labels is empty, right? So we don't do a lot with labels, but we still need it. And I'll show you why in a second here. For now, what we're going to do is we're going to go down, we're going to get these two conditions, and we are going to bump them up and bring them in, okay? Now, with this, you'll see that some of our names, right? It's kind of throwing these three dots signify that we've done something wrong, right? And that's because we don't have label set, we have labels, right? Could we put it on labels or create a new copy of labels and do stuff? Yeah, but in this case, what we could do instead is we could just return directly, right? We return this array, cleaning it up and doing the thing. Again, that labels goes right here. So we return labels. If we didn't hit this condition and we didn't hit this condition, then we need to return something. And that's what we're doing here. We're just returning, we're essentially returning the empty array, right? This could be, for all intents and purposes, just like this. But just in case we land in here and there are labels for some reason, I'm going to leave it as labels, okay? With that, we can do more. So let's go down here, class. I'm going to call this one needs triage, triage state, right? Excellent. And again, process. The function is, the method name is always the same. Needs to be the same, okay? That's the one part of this that cannot change. So process here, along with the arguments should be the same just to make it easier on ourselves. And we get into it. Now, what are we doing here? Well, we're taking all of this stuff inside of this conditional. We don't need the conditional because that's the class, right? But we need all of this right here. We're going to bring it up and drop it inside of here, okay? And then indent it back just to make it clean. Now, in this case, I do want label set, right? And I want label set to be a better name. But for now, I'm just going to go with label set, just like this, and spread it out. Labels. Excellent, okay? At which point we have it. But Splice won't return, right? If we just go here and we try to return this, Splice will actually return the deleted item, not the whole array of labels. So instead, what we can do is we can switch this to toSpliced. ToSpliced is still kind of new. So if you had to, you could go labelset.splice on its own line and then return labelset, right? It kind of just, it saves us that line, okay? So that's needs triage, which means that we can duplicate this. Let's bring it down, add a little space. We're going to change this to discussing, right? That was the name. So discussing, just like this. We still have process, title, labels. A lot of this goes away, right? We don't want any of this. Instead, we want all of this. We don't want this splice anymore. We just want these two things. So we bring them up just like this, making sure that they're in the right place. Excellent. Okay. If you hate that space, you can get rid of it, add more, whatever you want, right? It's easy like that. But now we have these three classes and they're all doing a very specific thing. This one is testing, or this one is processing our untriaged state, right? That's what it's doing. This one is processing our needs triage state. This one is processing our discussing state. And we can use all those right here. So we create a function, we call it getState. We pass in labels because we need those for some conditionals, but our first conditional is, well, actually it does use labels, right? It is if labels.length equals 0, right? And if it is, then we return new what? New untriaged state, right? Untriaged state. Excellent. I don't think you actually need these, but I always put them. Again, be very careful with what you need, okay? So with that, we have this and we can do more. So if labels dot includes, that's actually this, right? Labels dot includes needs triage, copying it, pasting it in. Oh, you know what? I'm going to copy too much. Here we go. Copy the right amount, just like this. Excellent. Okay. Then return new, what is it? Triaged. I'm forgetting my names at this point because it's late in this video, but needs triaged, needs triage state. Okay. Just like this. Did I spell it right? I did. It's doing everything right. This one's going to be the same. This one's going to be for discussing, just like this, which means that we can clean this one out. Discussing. Weird that it did not type the D. Discussing state. Excellent. One final one, because what happens if we're greater than 0, but we haven't caught on any of these, right? So let's go return an object that has process, which is that function, right? So we could go title and label, just like we did before, labels, and returning, oh, too much, returning labels. Excellent. Okay. Title is grayed out because it's not used. You can just underscore that. Makes the system happy. Okay. But at this point, if we don't catch on any of these, then we just return the labels. Okay. Now down here, we have all this, right? We did all this. We're doing it. Right above that labels, I'm going to leave it for a second, but right above that labels, we're going to get our state. Okay. And our state is going to be get state with the labels. Excellent. And then down here, we're going to do state.process, and we're going to send in title and labels. And from here, it should all still work, right? So we are cleaning it up. We're making it smaller chunks. Now, what about this security, right? We've kind of done a pattern called state in here where we have these 3 classes and we're doing something called polymorphism. Because they all have the same method on them, we can return the instantiated class from one of these and be absolutely guaranteed that we have that process method on it, right? And then we always pass in the same arguments, doing the same thing, doing all of it, right? Even with this default state, whatever that is, it still kicks out and does the thing, okay? Which means that now we need to take care of security. And security works best as a decorator. So a decorator is basically a wrapper function, right? You're passing in an array or an object or something like that, and you can do some work, or you can add stuff to that array or object, right? As an example, maybe you get an object from an API, and you want to always have default values in that object. Well, you could use a decorator to add in those keys, right? We've seen other challenges like that. I forget what they're called, but where we've tried to merge our defaults into our current, right? So we can do that here. This is going to be function, add security label, just like this. What are we passing in there? Again, it's title and labels, right? Title and labels, and we are returning directly. So we're going to get, again, it's basically all of this when it comes down to it. So we can boost this up and clean it up. We're going to return this. And if that's the case, then we add in that critical, okay? I did actually take too much, silly me, but we add in that critical, which means that we take our labels, just like this, and add in critical. Otherwise, we just return labels unchanged, right? We aren't doing anything with that. Sending it out the door, doing all the stuff. which means that now we can do that label set. We're going to wrap it up and go add security label, and it should work. It absolutely doesn't. What am I missing? Really fast. Checking .test title, labels and critical, otherwise labels. And oh, you know what? It's because I didn't pass in the title. Look at me go. There we go. Done, right? So getting ahead of myself. It is a bit of a long video, and we are coming to the end. So with all that, we have broken it up. Again, could we do it like this? It's small enough. We probably could. It's not a big deal to have a long function. It just gets a little bit harder to see the forest through the trees, right? To see what's going on. With smaller parts, it's easier to quickly see that, okay, I'm going to get state. Get state is one of these classes, right? One of these classes here, or a default state. Great. Which class am I in? I don't know, but I can do some research and I can go and do it. And the key here between this long set and the refactored set, even though the refactored set is technically more lines of code, watch, okay? I can take, again, maybe this, right? I just bring this down and I call it in testing state, right? And then I go in testing just like this, and that new label doesn't really matter. It can be test this please, right? As an example, please. And of course we splice it in and we do the stuff, and the title doesn't matter on this one, but that's okay. And then down here we go if, I did not need to do that. I could just copy this down. So labels includes in testing, right? Then we run in testing states, just like this, spelling it right, and everything still works. Why does everything still work? Well, because we never actually call this, right? But if I did have a label called in testing, then I can add a very specific class, right? I can, in TypeScript, we could set up an abstract class, right? As placeholders for all this, and then create this class with this promise of having process on it and use it down here. I don't need that today, so I'm going to get rid of it, and it works, okay? Again, a very long video, but it's really helpful to see how you can break this out and reuse some of this, because I could go through, if I needed to do more on needs triage, maybe there are more labels here, and I need to break this into a more complex conditional. Well, I can do that right here without affecting anything else, right? Everything else is still testable. I can make sure that it still goes green on the test runner, stuff like that. And I can just work inside of here and get the job done. Otherwise, today, I mean, this works, right? It absolutely works. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just going to get way longer if we need to add more to this. So just be aware of that. And that's how this breaking it out into pieces can really benefit you early. That's it. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you find something interesting? Did you go a different way, right? Let me know all that stuff in the comments. Again, it's been quite a long ride, but this has been Issue Triage 2, and I will see you tomorrow.